Happy New Year and welcome to the Wrestling Roundtable. It's now 2008 and we're going to start off with a topic that deals with someone who, even though he's not even on television right now, is still probably the most talked about guy in wrestling. But before we get to that, introductions first. Sitting to my left, which would be your right, is Lawrence Haber, fan of 22 years. And to my right, which would be your left, is first Chris Harris, a fan of 16 years. Rodney LeConte, fan of 19 years, and I am your host, Eric Santa Maria, a fan of also 19 years. And in all these years that we've been watching wrestling, I really don't see anyone else that can compare to our topic to start off John Cena. Has there ever been anyone in wrestling to be in his place of being simultaneously so popular and yet so hated?
No, because it's funny because WWF hasn't gone with the fans, or I guess the male audience, which is basically their target audience, wants, which is turn him heel, which I think what got him hot in the first place.
But pretty much every instance we've seen that before, that's exactly what they've done. Why have they decided to stop that trend with John Cena?
They're getting enough cheers, enough pop. He's been basically their top guy since 2005. I think they're sticking with him. You know, they're finding that he's working well together with Triple H and Michaels, having good media matches with them, and I think they're sticking with their guns.
And it's one of the few times that they're not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're not trying to change something that's definitely working for them. They've been stupid like that in the past with stuff, but I think they know their bread is buttered with this guy.
I think it's money.
Well, yeah.
For example, even if he's getting booed by half the audience, he's still selling more shirts than anybody
you
there.
still see a lot of little kids with the chain getting signed, with the hats and the shirts.
Women and children love him, and he's selling enough shirts, he's selling enough figures. No one is outselling him.
But that's what's amazing to me about it. They're getting the best of both worlds, where they have a face champion that is selling a lot of merchandise. People are buying the pay-per-views to see him win or not.
They want to see him lose, too.
And he's selling tickets for the women and children who are cheering him on. But then there's the male audience that hates him. All these people on YouTube, fuck Cena, blah, blah, blah. But they're paying money. They're interested in seeing him lose.
So he's got the heel champion thing where people are waiting to see him drop the title, but he's still got the babyface reaction and merchandise sales, which is cool. But I think we're all missing out on something. The train was going to stop with Triple H. Eventually, he was going to get that win back. The line would have been drawn, so we will never get what we want. We want to hate this guy. We've chosen to hate this guy, and they're allowing us to hate this guy. But the train's still going to stop at that Triple H.
But why are people hating this guy?
The reason they hate this guy is because of Triple H. Because for the most part, he wasn't getting that heel heat until Triple H and him were going to have that big match at WrestleMania.
No,
Triple H
was getting a lot of heel before.
But it put it over the top.
Jericho.
Because now the cool heel...
Triple H has capitalized on it.
I'll give you a put it over the
Triple H
top.
capitalized on it. It happened way before.
It started before SummerSlam.
Okay, all right. It started to fester, but if Undertaker built up the match with Batista this year by cutting promos on Batista saying, you can't wrestle, like Triple H did. The fans have that respect thing for Undertaker like they do for Triple H. I think Triple H helped make him.
Sealed the deal.
Not by putting him over.
I think he sealed the deal. When he was brought onto Raw, he feuded with Jericho and Christian, who were fan favorites.
Don't forget Angle.
Then I was going to bring up him. Angle has a huge following. They dumped him into a feud with him next.
I'll give Lawrence this. I think it did put it over the top because what Triple H said about Cena on that Raw really crossed the fucking line.
Yeah,
you don't say you're not a good wrestler.
Yeah, that breaks the ultimate kayfabe.
I think,
you're not. That's stupid.
But he knew why people were booing him, so he just the first to say it.
We all know that.
But
you just don't say it.
It went from being a shoot thing where the fans hated him because he couldn't wrestle to an affectionate heel sort of response. Now the fans like him when he's on the show because they get to boo him. So it's kind of like how it used to be with like Macho Man in '89 or something, where it's like we like to boo the guy.
Maybe it diverted their hate from he's not that good, so we don't like him because the women kids like him too. We just want to see him lose.
It's not the X-Pac type of heat where they just hate the guy because he sucks. They've done a nice job building him up and having him get all these wins against people like Michaels and Triple H and Angle, and now so he's got some credibility and they can still hate him.
It came down to booking and that first year as champion, even going a little beyond that, where he fought Rob Van Dam. That feud with Edge all year long. When it came to the beginning of 2007, they booked him better with Umaga, Shawn Michaels, great colleague.
Well, they booked him as a great
If
champion.
you're talking about
flawless.
if you're talking about booking, let's go back to the beginning just a little bit. And I don't mean when he showed up in plain tights as John Cena in 02
No.
or whatever. I'm talking about after the SmackDown Halloween where he came out as Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
They ran with it. And it was a comedy thing for a little bit with B2.
Yeah, and I said,
Red
and I couldn't
Dog
believe that they took the prototype guy and they were going to ruin him with this, but was I wrong or what?
He
Who
was
knew?
really over after that. Like when you like to point out when he was the edgy heel. I
He was.
especially liked when he would leave the curse word at the end of the rhyme for the crowd to say.
Or the things
Yeah.
he would do with Stephanie and stuff like
But
that. You know, the
between
innuendo.
that and WrestleMania 21, what happened to change that?
When he beat Bradshaw, no, he was still
I
over.
think he was way over.
Not
was
like Batista was.
Yeah, at that
No,
event.
Batista was
yeah.
hot.
What really came down to was when he moved to Raw. He was over on SmackDown as a champion.
Yeah,
He was-
he's on
he
the
was-
A show now.
Then
he's
he
the A
went, once
guy.
he moved over, I think
Because now he's in the
it's
war
kind of like
with
you're in the
Triple
big
H.
leagues once you make it to Raw,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
coming
He was
in,
in Triple H's
being
prime.
drafted as a champion over there. And they
Well, what
had two
happened-
champions at the time as well, because Batista was still there, and Batista was so popular at the time.
They made him this like edgy heel who became face because of what he was saying. You know, I mean, maybe the guy can't wrestle, but he could cut a great promo. But it's like they made it Austin for kids, and people didn't like that.
And instead of like drinking beers and stuff, which is still kind of edgy, even though it's babyface bullshit, he went from doing like these edgy raps to now I'm the Marine and I'm.
He's the whole face of the company. He can't be, really
A safe one.
Yeah, he can't be cutting those promos still.
He seems to be the kid in the class who tried so hard to be cool. I think
But
that's
it's
why
weird
a lot
because he
of
started
people.
doing that after he was already champion
When he
and
was being
over.
groomed, they
and-
started to take the edge away. When he was getting ready for that title.
Yeah, like when he beat Big Show, all of a sudden the things
That
were
was
coming
huge
off
when
of
he
his
won at
character.
WrestleMania 20, and like from there you could see it go down.
Yeah, because now all of a sudden he's got like his own people's elbow now,
Mhm.
and he's pumping his sneakers up and
Yeah.
stuff, which was all quirky things of the edgy heel, but now it was like cartoon aspects of a baby face.
People who boom at least are thinking, well, this is the next big thing. This is what we're really supposed to be cheering for. I think it's kind of disappointment to a lot of the people who boom.
But isn't it really that a lot of his ability is very transparent? I mean, his offense is like backyard.
I think that's a lot of
Yeah,
it
I mean,
too.
with the shoulder block.
But
and
see,
the butt,
Triple
right
H
at the
made
time.
that known.
But when you put him in the ring with Angle, when you compare the skill level of an
It
Angle,
looks ridiculous when he's landing on his knees and he's wearing sneakers and jean shorts. He looks ridiculous.
the bar was set so high in the Brock Angle era. Those guys had a lot of skill, and this
Yeah.
guy is like barely passing.
Yeah, barely passable.
But we're gonna talk about what the reaction is gonna be when he comes back, when we come back.
More on John.
So stick around, and we'll be
John
talking more
Cena.
about War of Life. All right, we're back, and we were talking about John Cena, who, even though he's out on injury right now, he tore his tit off.
I wonder
he's still-
why.
He's still a very hot topic. You see so much. Whenever we were having comments posted about our previous videos, a lot of it is Cena, fuck Cena, blah blah blah. What do you think his reaction's going to be
I
when
think
he
it's
comes
gonna
back?
get a huge pop. Like,
Of course.
huge fucking
At
pop.
first, it's gonna get a huge pop.
No, I
They
think
always
it's-
pop when people come back.
It's just you're seeing a return as a lot.
And it's a big
No, I
return.
think it's
Big
not.
return.
I think it's not just a return, like the return of Kane or return of Undertaker. I think it's
Okay.
going to be a huge pop where they know a legit main eventer. The main event seems to be flipped over
I
again.
think it's gonna die. It's gonna go back to the way.
But
it
it's the
was,
return
though.
of their top act that they had the
Exactly.
past
I
couple
think
years.
he's going to go right to the main event.
Right,
Right back in
of
the
course.
dark.
Of course he is,
I would put
but-
the belt right back on him.
But do you think he's going to get the same type of reaction he has been, or will it change a little?
I think he's going to get the initial huge pop because, whoa, shit, Cena's back. The belt's off him, so they can't do the big, he loses the belt blow off now, because that was the big storyline that they were saving for him, what we
Yeah.
talked about last time. So maybe what they're going to do is pull the trigger on the heel turn. If he goes back, gets a huge pop, and it's sustained, and the fans turn on him again, let him turn on him again, because it drew money before. Why change it? Just let him come back, put the belt right back on him, and pick up where we left off. Because we know that
But how do-
fucking
how do you
Orton ain't
know-
going to draw no money, and neither is Jericho, or Triple H, or Michaels, or anything.
But how do you know girls
Piece of
still
shit
will
on that
cheer
show.
when he's a heel?
Good.
Girls
Let it be the same way.
They still
Let it
cheer
say it.
Orton. They still cheer
This is a
Orton.
good
Same
looking
reason
guy.
WF went back to Hogan after Warrior and Savage and all. You go back to what works, man.
Speaking of Hogan, I know you do a lot, and I guess it's a little fair comparison, but do you really think comparing Cena to Hogan in terms of wrestling is very fair? Because the comparison is, this is a guy who's extremely over, their #1 champion, but his wrestling skills are not exactly stellar.
I don't even think he comes up to Austin Rock's level.
Well, obviously, we know that, but I'm talking about.
Yeah, but so how do
Well,
you
he's
compare to
talking about-
Hogan if he can't go
Correct
up
me
to
if
Austin
I'm wrong.
Rock?
He's talking about the stereotype that Hogan couldn't work and was still a main eventer, which is bullshit because if you've seen him in Japan,
Maybe he couldn't technically
Before
wrestle like
WCW.
Bret Hart. He could still tell good stories in the ring. Hogan actually was good at hiding the fact that he wasn't a good wrestler. People clearly see it with Cena.
because Hogan went through the old school. And so he has the experience of Japan and the territories. Like, even if Hogan was the biggest idiot and had no idea what he was doing, there's still part of him, it's ingrained in his DNA. It was absorbed in him to know the basics. I don't think Cena has the fundamentals.
I
now.
think it relates
I
to
think-
this idea of what a worker is
Yeah.
in modern wrestling era being extremely distorted. Hulk Hogan, by the very definition of the word, is a good worker. He works the crowd, he draws money, people are into it, it's dramatic.
I think that's a
You
great
mean he talks and puts asses in the seats?
Yeah, which is the whole purpose of wrestling in the first place.
Copyright infringement.
The internet has decided in the past decade and a half that to be a good worker, you need to work the leg and hit hard like Benoit and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and it's
Good
distorted.
family.
Yeah.
Hogan is actually one of the best of all time.
If
He may
not
not,
the best.
he may not be doing technical wrestling every time he goes out there, but he'll say himself.
People don't have the
when he
same
go-
venom for Dusty.
When he goes to Japan, he turns it up. His matches with Hansen, matches with Muda, those are great matches.
So let's
you
say-
don't see American Hogan doing that stuff. I don't think Cena can match that sort of skill level.
Bottom line, maybe Hogan's not the athlete of Kurt Angle or Bret Hart, but doesn't mean he's letting less of a. It's pro wrestling. It's a work.
Yeah.
Who drew the most money?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
that's not
Maybe
my
it is a fair comparison.
Lita drew a lot of money. Though.
Cena has drawn a lot,
He has
of
drawn
money,
a
in
lot of
spite
money.
of his skill level, and I think that is part of why people don't like him because his offense is so offensive. And another thing about it is that these women and kids like him. Shawn Michaels in '96, while he had a great run, the male audience hated it.
A lot of people still are Shawn fans. You can't say that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are still Shawn fans because he was a great wrestler.
Yeah, but they're not going to buy a T-shirt with him posing half naked on it. I'm not going to, as a guy, I'm not going to walk around.
Yeah,
like
he used
that.
to walk around with the belly shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
I love kids, and I'm a cowboy, and I do this stuff.
Well, right
and I-
now,
and
every
I have
female
nipple
fan in
rings.
the world loves him because he's hot and cute. The pent-up male portion of the wrestling audience resents that.
Batista.
Why not hate people like Bret Hart?
Or Batista
who
or
came out
something.
wearing pink?
What do
Obviously,
you have
he
against
was-
pink?
I love pink. Who obviously, was a big female attraction.
He was.
Yeah, so
But,
why
but,
not
he,
hate?
but he wasn't
He-
like, I'm Bret Hart, the sexiest
Yeah, he
guy.
didn't come out to a song called
Yeah.
Sexy Boy.
Swinging
But
Bret.
neither does Cena.
He came out to a wailing guitar.
He was called the
came in,
Hitman.
The Hitman had a move
Come
called
on,
the
the whole
Sharp
thing in
Shooter.
'97 was your posing in girly magazines.
Oh,
Come
of
on.
course. But Cena doesn't do that either.
I don't think it's the sex symbol aspect of people hating. I think it's just he went from being like, I'm gonna do this freestyle rapping thing to white bread baby face, like eat every. And it's not like Hogan being like, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, because everybody was like, yeah, that's cheesy, we love it. When Cena does stuff like that, it's like, come on. Can you imagine if Rock, when he turned face, was like, The Rock loves all the kiddies out there instead of the people?
I like
I
John
think it's a
Cena.
whole different
I'm very hot and cold with John Cena. Because
Me too.
I realize he's got obviously limited wrestling ability. However, he still manages to get some decent matches out of people that you don't expect. In addition to that, in the past year, I really thought his character was interesting. Instead of turning him,
We're talking about.
instead of turning him, they went the route with, I'm gonna stick with what I'm doing, and I don't care if you cheer me or boo me, I'm gonna do my thing.
Something
Yeah.
different?
Yeah.
God forbid?
At the end of the day, I really hate that goddamn bell. I can't
Spinner, this is where
stand
you
that
go.
bell.
Hey, it represents him, man.
It was cute for the U.S. title, but to me,
But
you don't do that.
Maybe
for the
there's
world
people
title.
like you that boo him because they're like, who are more smart markets than you, who are like, he even has a stupid belt that spins with diamonds.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah,
There's
it
always.
adds to the hatred that makes him over.
Well, I never liked when they changed the belt at all.
Well, in this case, it might actually have a purpose.
This is, it's
Well, it certainly sells a lot of fake
using it.
belts.
There you
They're
go.
still using it too, and Orton, he's been gone for months. Orton's still carrying it.
You hate it from a tradition standpoint.
Yes.
Which, and like Eric always says, when that belt changes back to the old
Then we
belt,
know the
we know the
Cena era
senior is over.
Our era on the John Cena topic is coming to an end, and we don't have time to go into it now. This may be more appropriate for a topic about racism in wrestling, but I say again, why not a black man? That's the thing that bugs me to no end. But so does YouTube's time limits. When we get back, we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite commentators throughout the years, so stick around. Word up. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable, and our next topic is somewhat appropriate, being that this past week Jim Ross re-signed for another 2 years, so we get to hear that voice for even longer. We're going to be talking about our favorite and least favorite commentators over the years, kind of the unsung heroes of wrestling, because I know when I go through 24/7 or any old tapes, and I hear these commentators from the past, these teams, these individual people, it's just like, it warms my heart. When I hear
fresh air.
When I hear Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, when I hear McMahon and Ventura, it's such a different era. I can't even watch Jerry Lawler now. When I listen to his old stuff,
Or when he's not on Raw, when he's like doing other stuff, interviews and stuff, he's so much more entertaining. When he's scripted.
The funniest is
when he's coerced.
I was watching the Jake Snake DVD the other week, and hearing him rip on Jake Snake being a drunk, had me cracking up.
When he was commentating with McMahon and the toupee jokes, those were great.
Yeah.
well, when he was feuding with Bret Hart, and all the zingers he'd get in on Stu
That went on
and
for years.
Yeah.
And like a good heel anannouncer, when Brett turned heel, he was on the dark side, so now he was crying.
The best thing when he was crying right there before the 100 audition.
That was beautiful. And he was upset the whole rest of the show. It was beautiful.
That was great.
And now he's such a fucking cartoon that he makes me laugh maybe about
Scripted.
once a year.
Yeah, but is he even a heel? He's not a heel.
Yeah, that's the
right?
problem.
No,
He's not a heel anymore.
When I listen to him,
he's a puppet now.
I can hear the Lawler from '93 saying what Lawler should be saying
Fucking
now.
commentators became shades of gray. We don't have a Ventura who would talk about the Justy the Body Award and shit all the time.
JBL was the closest.
No,
thing to
fuck him. We have to accept a lesser heel, like JB fucking L. Oh, he's mean to people, then he shoots. Screw him. He ain't no Jerry Lawler in the 90s. He ain't no Bobby Heenan and Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, but you didn't
No,
give him
but
a
he's
chance.
being
The closest
a dick.
you're gonna get. That's all I'm saying.
You didn't give him a chance.
It's the closest we're gonna get.
Who are your favorite commentators throughout your life as a wrestling fan?
Well, I want to do the cliche thing with the Gordon Soley and all that, who I respect a great deal, but as a kid growing up in the 80s, it's always going to be Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. Unbelievably funny and on point, and people used to rip Gorilla for not knowing holes and stuff. He doesn't need to know, like Mike Tenay. They put over the tone. Gorilla would talk about Hogan like Hogan was the greatest athlete in the
absolutely.
whole universe.
He would. And then in
Why
'98,
not?
when it wasn't okay anymore, and they had Monsoon go on TV on one of their specials and say, well, I don't think Hogan knew a wrist lock from a wristwatch. It was like betrayal. This is the guy who told me that he was the greatest athlete in the world for decades.
I bought the shirts and had the action figures, and I was convinced that King Kong Bundy was evil, and Bobby Heenan was like the mastermind of a horrible scheme that was going to end the world and by destroying Hulkamania.
I don't like Jim Ross at all.
He
I'll
used to
say
be
that,
excellent.
but he was really good back before he lost his face.
He was more interesting. He was kind of like the straight commentator,
Yeah.
and it was good because like McMahon was trying to do this tweener thing where he was being edgy, but he was still being, 1, 2,
And Lawler was being Lawler.
Yeah.
Especially ripping on ECW, which I thought was funny.
there was no, but I respect, no, like the good heels are pricks through and through.
Yes, they stick
That's a
together.
bad guy.
There are no exceptions.
Yes.
Except for Heenan with Goldberg in '98.
That was an exception.
I think that's what I
And
just
they
said.
make that exception for stupid things now.
Well, of course.
They make that exception for mid-card bullshit.
Right,
You
yeah.
know? You
Well,
can't do that.
I thought Macho Man was an excellent commentator. He
You know what?
really
Yeah,
made
Macho Man's
Raw special. I liked hearing his voice on Raw.
They
Mr.
said
Perfect was
93,
good also. When-
Mr. Perfect
When he
was
took
really
over
good.
for Macho Man, I thought
Yeah.
he did a good job.
They said a lot of goofy things,
Mhm.
but Piper and Savage together with
Together,
Ben on
that was hard.
Superstars.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to believe that they really liked Hulk Hogan, even in the kayfabe
No, I bought it.
universe. Because I knew they were all faces at the same time. Like when McMahon took the chair shot from Flair, where it's like, holy shit, Vince McMahon. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah, nothing like
and
that
then,
ever happened.
And also when Hogan had been like killed by Undertaker, and Macho Man and Piper left the announcement.
Right.
And they took the chair
And they
from
took the chair from
Undertaker.
Undertaker. That was great. I was like, oh my god.
I always got a kick out of Vince McMahon's WWF era Howard Cosell impression.
Oh, that's
I'm
good.
here with
we
8
gotta
foot
give Vince
tall.
props.
I love
He was
Vince
so
McMahon as a
much fun.
commentator.
Vince McMahon was a
so
great
much fun.
commentator.
Yeah,
He was the voice of Raw.
I was making fun of his 2 counts when I was like
1, 2.
5 years old.
Join the Rumble. He's out. He's out. No.
Do you think a lot of that had to do with that he was the man behind everything, so he knew what stories to tell in the best way? Like he knew what he was going for?
I think, yeah, because he has a mind for the business. This is his creation, his baby. As you
You mean like the Divas?
Exactly. having him tell a story, I think he was the perfect man, you know, and he has a mind for business. He's great at what he did back then.
What about-
I think even now he can still be good.
Oh, he could do it now, sure.
Pretty much everybody that he worked with, I always enjoyed. That's when I started watching.
For the most part, none of us, and this is no offense to anybody, but besides me, had any experience listening to Gordon Soley at any point while he was still alive. He wouldn't work now, obviously. It'd be very difficult.
German souffle
Exactly.
by Kurt.
That's the first I
yeah.
heard him play. However,
Souffle.
Tony Schiavone did his job.
I
and he
think
did it
Tony
well.
Schiavone is one of
He
the most
was
underrated
no
people.
different than Vince McMahon was a commentator. He did the same thing. He didn't
He
know
did
the
his
names of all
job.
the holds,
No.
but he knew what he needed to put over. Now, he was ruined later on in the Monday Night Wars when they started trying to feed him lines and they started making him say,
It's a swerve!
yeah, and like even like talking about Foley with the title. Like,
Yeah.
when he was allowed to just do whatever Tony
Yeah.
Schiavone did, he was fun, he was energetic. Whenever they tell the commentators what to say,
He gets so much shit from the internet.
because he's from
He
WCW.
shouldn't, because he made the NWO seem so real.
Yeah.
He really
The
made it.
commentators helped. Every time they
Oh,
showed
of
up,
course.
Heenan would run
But
away.
I think the big problem with that was there was too many
Who
commentators.
commentated the night Hogan
I don't
turned?
think so.
Bobby Heenan, Shivani,
Dusty Rhodes.
But Heenan gave
Yeah.
that away
And
though.
what made that
Heenan
work?
ruined that.
No, he didn't.
not.
No, he did not.
He was
No.
consistent.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Heenan ripping on him is
What
perfectly
side
in
is he
character
on?
with what he was
Yes,
doing.
and also, I know that that's not true because when Heenan said it, it didn't even go through my mind that
No,
sir.
Whose side is he on?
I was like, of course,
Heenan is a fucking liar. You don't believe what the devil tells you?
Exactly.
The guy that, you know, for
My
all of your
opinion.
life you've been seeing save the day, you're not gonna think.
He always said shit like that about Hogan, even when there wasn't a possible heel turn.
Yeah.
I've talked to my friends and stuff, and they said, oh, we thought Luger was going to come running back in and turn and beat up Hogan. Nobody really believed that no matter what anybody said, you could have had the screamer, Hulk Hogan is about to turn heel on the bottom of the screen. Nobody would have believed it until he finally turned. Dude, we're talking about like 20 fucking years.
I
of
don't
him
think
being-
anybody even
Through
in the
three different
WWF
companies.
locker
Yes.
room.
One stupid comment is not going to give that away.
No.
Now it would, in the era of everything is
Everything's
obvious,
turning. We're
but
gonna
not
turn
then.
this, turn that.
Well,
in.
we're
Sorry,
going to have
Chris.
to take our break, but before we go to our break, I want to say one thing in Shivani's defense. Jim Ross gets credit for being a commentator for so long in so many different companies. Tony Schiavone's been a commentator for just as long in so
All
many
I gotta
different
say
Yeah.
is, good night America, Goldberg's
Goldberg's
the champ.
the champ.
All right.
Famous words.
Well, we're going to go to our first
Put it
break,
over.
and then we'll be back to you, McMahon. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. We were talking about our favorite and least favorite commentators through the years, and before we move on, what do you make of Joey Styles? What's his legacy?
I think back in the old ECW, he was great. You know, I think everyone loved him. He did it by himself.
That's
I mean,
cool.
once, yeah, by himself. You know, on the pay-per-views, on all the hardcore shows and everything. Once they got to TNN, and they added Cyrus or
Cyrus.
everything
Joe Gertner.
from that area was fun. Gertner,
I'll
I
give-
could pass.
I'll
you know.
give Joey Styles this. I was never a fan of his. I hate this smart mark internet side jokes he would make and crap like that. But he did carry the company by himself. When another man was added into the mix, it really wasn't too
Yeah, he
spectacular.
tried,
He could have done it by himself.
He was fun with Rude though. I liked.
He was fun with
Yeah.
Rude. He was fun with
And
Rude.
part of it was because Rude was an ex-WF guy. He kind of got this vibe that Styles was like felt contaminated by him being there next to him. or
Yeah.
something.
Rude had an attitude then. It was a little edgier.
Some guys become like Heenan. Obviously, always was a great talker because he was a manager. But like Ventura was so much better as a commentator than he was as any sort of wrestling performer. I think Lawler's going to be remembered by most fans not just because of the Attitude Era, but he has like a great wrestling legacy. But as a commentator, he's the modern era's Ventura.
Yeah, it's a set.
Well, and you can't say the same thing about JD fucking L.
If you remember when Joey Styles was first brought in to replace Jim Ross on Raw,
Yes.
for about 3 weeks before they cut his balls off,
Yeah.
it was actually really entertaining.
It's different.
It was. Because it was so different than the status quo we're used to for so long. But then, as soon as they attached the strings,
Yeah.
and he started doing the boring storytelling crap,
Any kind of slap, any kind of headbutt is extreme.
Taz with
Have
Taz.
to get a paycheck.
I think everyone can
Have to
agree
get a
that what Taz has done to himself, he took his own edge away. Like he's such a shill, it's absurd. I understand you're working for the big time, you're making the big money now, it ain't a bingo hall anymore. But he goes out there and he makes fun of who he used to be. You don't have to do that. Like nobody likes that. Nobody likes a person who doesn't have,
But
you know, self-confidence.
I lost
Where
it.
else would
He's still one of my
doing that
all-time
job?
favorites,
Where
As a wrestler,
where would
yeah.
he be
Yeah.
right now if he wasn't doing that job?
He can still be a commentator without
No,
going out
yeah.
on like 24/7 and being like, I'm a big fat fucking joke from Brooklyn. Fuck you. Like,
yeah,
you know, that's not entertaining, funny,
I know-
or edgy. It's
I know
stupid.
you're a big Taz fan. I was a Taz fan
Me
too.
too.
Maybe not to the extent that you guys were, but it still jars me when, like on ECW this past week, Kane comes out and he'll make references like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm not in there."
That's part of the reason why I can't even watch it anymore.
But why
I don't
can't
watch
he
ECW
still be
anymore, but yeah.
Taz and be funny and say,
He gets
but
a-
back in the day I would have choked him out? Why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
It's a good thing for Kane that I'm not in the ring right now.
That's more heel to
Yeah.
say something like,
Why
"Oh,
not?
I beat him up if I wasn't in there."
So right now you have two, like, past ECW voices basically putting over this crap.
If they wanted to appeal to the smart mark crowd on that show, they would do that. Because really, I don't know who the hell they're trying to appeal to on that show.
No,
'Cause I don't-
nobody. If you watch 24/7, he liberally goes out there and rips the shit out of the old ECW. Like, why? I mean, I know they want to
What's
be
the
honest,
problem? Why?
but he's supposed to be putting over that.
He's
that
hosting the damn
attachment.
show.
Hosting the
You know,
show.
he's supposed
I
to
don't
be
know-
linked between the two ECW things that are supposed to have some level
They're
of
supposed to bridge
consistency.
the old and the new, which is not.
I know there are a lot of old ECW wrestlers who would never do that, who love to miss the old ECW, like,
Well, they're a bunch of
Van
losers, too.
Dam, Sandman.
Well, let's talk about some of our least favorite or most overrated commentators. Who are some?
Mike Tenay.
I know you want to go off on this one, so go ahead.
Yeah.
If I can keep your interest, Mike Tenay. Who's the other junkie? Don West. Don West. Both of them, I honestly have to say, make me want to watch
We got
TNA
our
on mute. These two sound like two 8-year-old girls screaming at everybody, so any hires community.
Oh my God, Randy, he just did it with that body slam. I can't believe he did that.
When I watch it, I feel insulted every time they talk.
Well,
because when I hear something,
first off-
they have to repeat it back to me, but with few words switched around.
Here's the problem.
Every time.
Why are they talking
Why?
over promos? That's a big problem.
I'll tell
Did you hear Kurt Angle's get defend the title?
I'll tell you
Kurt
why.
Angle's fucking out of the
I'll
ring.
tell you why. When Mike Tenay was on Nitro, I actually enjoyed his work.
Yeah.
As the third string announcer, his role was to tell you facts about the luchadors.
He was
pretty
great
much.
with the
Yeah,
luchadors.
pretty much.
He was great
He
in that.
came,
role.
told the story backwards to the
Here's what Rey Mysterio
He's the
came from.
analyst.
He gave us all this information. Yeah.
Here's the difference.
was cool.
As the lead man for TNA, he is exposition. All he's going to tell you is plot-driven dialogue.
He's
He's going to tell you exactly what you're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
This is exactly what the story's supposed to be, and that's why
and
he
if it-
sounds.
And that's why TNA won't go any further, because they're still in their own way, no matter how people want to say, still trying to be like Raw, still following in their.
And the problem
their
is,
path.
having someone like Vince McMahon who knows kind of what he's doing feed you lines is even worse when you're having people who don't know what they're doing, like the TNA bookers feed a guy like that lines. You know what I
I think
mean?
the program would work so much better if they had Kevin Nash out there.
Oh, well, that's needless to say. And he should be champion.
Let's get this
He should
Kevin
be.
Nash thing
He should
out.
have.
Do you realize
It wouldn't be
what
very
would happen to that show?
Yeah.
Now, granted, I would enjoy
Yeah.
it, but if you're
Yeah.
Dixie Carter, there's no way you can allow that to happen. You might as well get ICP to do the show.
Jim Cornette, I thought was a great announcer.
Cornette, yeah.
He was great.
No,
he was doing
As a
no.
manager, not as an announcer. He was
a good announcer.
It's
I
too
thought-
much because he's like a Joey Styles heel.
He was
I know everything, and I'm gonna tell you.
He doesn't know.
He was witty.
He wasn't the greatest announcer, but I would take him over anyone
A
on
lot.
TV right now.
A lot better.
Seriously,
So
you would take the man who sold you baseball cards at 3 in the morning.
If he was with somebody who could tame him a little bit, he might actually be entertaining.
No,
Because people
no,
love that. whole
absolutely
thing.
I don't see it at all.
Yeah, but because you guys don't like him, I think, because he's not had nothing to do with wrestling. He's the guy that sold the McGuire rookie cards, and now he's
Not
and
just
now he's
that,
selling
it's
wrestling.
just,
I don't even
he's
know
just
if
yelling at me. Did you just see that? It's always just yelling and yelling.
It
and
sounds
yelling.
like a parody of wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Ross does that too. I mean, every
Yeah, but
Monday
Jim
night.
Ross, yeah,
Like, did that Jeff Hardy
Jim
thing
Ross
on
at least
Monday?
has his legacy to fall back on.
Because
What has
everything
Don
Jim
West
Ross
have?
is always like,
I think
He'll always have those moments with Austin, all those, he'll
yeah, there's
have that.
death-defining moments,
He has those big moments.
That's
Don
happened.
West
I
has
think
those.
Jim Ross, I'll say it right now, I'll get shit for it. Jim Ross is the most overrated.
oh, totally.
I can't stand his damn
Now
voice.
he is.
I'm not saying that he wasn't ever good, but
I think he
I'm
was-
tired of it.
You can have anyone go out there and do their Jim Ross impression and be the same.
I think he was good at a certain point. They should have just let it, should have just put him in the back.
he's good, but I'm not gonna say he's the greatest of all time like they did it the whole
You know where
thing.
he's good? He's good at the WrestleMania main event.
Well,
But for the rest of the year, listen to him every fucking week is torturous
Yeah.
because every week's the WrestleMania main event, and not in that Shivani type cartoon
Well,
way.
speaking of WrestleMania main events, real quick, what are some of your favorite moments in
Announcing?
Yeah.
Goldberg winning the belt. Tony
Goldberg winning
Schiavone
the
took
belt.
something that was a 10 and made it an 11.
Mhm.
He felt it. He was feeling
Yeah.
it legitimately, and the fans were going nuts when he held the belts up. He wasn't talking. Whereas Mike Tenay or Jim Ross would be talking over that. There you can see the 2 belts. He has the world title, the
Well,
U.S. title.
I hate to talk over you, but we're running out of time, and it was a good show this week for the panel. Lawrence
Oh,
Haber,
yeah.
Chris Harris, Robbie Lacan. I'm your host, Eric Santamaria. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about our favorite submissions and finishers, and also comparing mixed martial arts to wrestling. Good night, America. Go Roots champ.